hear this thing that I'm going to share, right? And I'm going to be talking about crisis. Somebody say crisis. Has anybody ever experienced crisis here before? Some of you are lifting your hand in your hearts. Anybody ever experienced, a difficult situation or a circumstance before? Right? For you to be a high performer, you have to be the kind of person who knows how to manage crisis well and utilize crisis in a way that it will generate some kinds of results that will literally cause the eyes of people to pop wide open and their jaws to drop. Right? Crisis is so critical. I found out something interesting, that the difference between the person who succeeds and the person who doesn't succeed is their relationship with failure. Did you hear what I said? I said the difference between the person who succeeds and the person who doesn't is the way they relate with failure. One person relates with failure and feels like his life is over. Another person relates with failure and recognizes that because I fall down does not mean it is my downfall. I may fall down, but it can be a springboard for the next thing that's about to happen in my life. And you see, life will happen, right? Life will happen and you have to get used to it. You can come out of your house, dress up really nice, stand at the bus stop, and one downfall driver will splash water on you. Has that ever happened to you before? You look good in your white shirt, you're like, I'm going for an interview, I'm going to impress. And then somebody splashes water on you, right? And whilst you may wonder, why me? Why would such a thing happen to me? The truth is, life happens. Things like that will happen, but the way you respond to these kinds of situations will determine the kinds of results that you get out of life. So failure to me is mainly feedback. You hear what I said? Failure is what? Feedback. Right? Failure is normal. It's normal to experience those kinds of things. And I've found people who will rather not fail. But I would rather that you make an attempt and fail than for you not to try at all. It is okay to fail. Failure is the breakfast for champions. They go through those kinds of experiences and they evolve. They become great individuals. Let me tell you something. God is more interested in your evolution than in you getting to the destination. Did you hear what I said? God is more interested in the person that you become by virtue of the process that you go through than he is interested in you just getting to the end. God orchestrates certain things to happen so that you will evolve and become a certain kind of person. So what am I trying to get at? Some of you may have invested in business or started a business and you failed. I am telling you, it is fine to fail. Failure is fine, but it is not final. Did you hear what I said? It is okay to fail, but it is not your end to fail. And I'm saying this because I need you to understand that it is an essential ingredient in greatness. But the problem is, over time, we have been made to believe that because we failed, then that failure defines us. No, your failure, whatever experience you go through, should not define you because you are not a failure. You had a situation, but it doesn't mean that you are a product or you have become that particular situation that you have experienced. The one problem that I have is the way some of us relate to failure. Some of us have ascribed way too much power to crisis. Way too much power. Right? We give it too much attention. We give it too much time. We ascribe, it's almost like you think that crisis or failure is a VIP. So you massage its ego. You spend time with it. You talk about it. I've not met people who will agonize and complain and go on about the crisis that they faced, or the crisis that they experienced. And what they fail to realize is that the more they talk about it with toxic emotions, the more they amplify its power. In fact, the power of a crisis is directly proportional to the attention that you give to it and to the kind of emotion that you give it. Please write that down. I said the power of a situation, of a crisis or failure is directly proportional to the attention that you give it and to the kind of emotion that you give to that particular situation. So when you are speaking about it, are you speaking about that situation with bitterness, with offense? Are you speaking about that situation with anger? Are pouring fuel to the fire, and what we fail to realize is that we think that by talking about it, we are relieving ourselves of the pain. No, you are not relieving yourself of the pain. You are relieving the pain. Is somebody hear what I'm saying? Let me ask the person beside you, have you experienced a crisis? So, crisis does not come to destroy you. Crisis comes to reveal you to you. Crisis comes to help you identify and discover a dimension of yourself that you did not know. The problem is most people think that crisis comes to destroy or crisis comes to kill. Let me tell you something. Like I said before, failure is not final. The best of us, the people who you aspire to be like, have failed severally. They may not tell you all their experiences, but I can tell you for a fact that they have tried out something and it didn't work. They have felt disgruntled and dissatisfied with their results. But guess what? They did not remain on the ground. They picked themselves back up and they gave life another shot. If we were to really evaluate, and let me tell you, if failure was a function of degrees, some people have PhDs in failure. You will look at them and you think that they're successful. Go and check their backgrounds. If we were to attach degrees to the number of times and the intensity of failures that people have experienced, some of us on this stage have PhDs. Can I tell you a bit about some of the times when I failed? Oh, I can't hear you. Can I tell you a bit about some of the times when I failed? Epic failure. Oh Lord. You know, I remember a time, I'll never forget this. I remember a time when, you know, I had left my job, my 9-to-5 job, and I had left because I knew God had told me that Bankole was time to leave banking. And He had told me to work with an amazing gentleman. And at a point in time, that business, you know, was changing and evolving from just being a consulting firm to being a foundation. And at a point in time, I found myself not having a job again. And I remember that I asked God, I said, God, you told me to leave banking. You know, how come I'm experiencing a crisis? I thought when I obey your voice, I will experience, you know, all the lofty and beautiful things in life. Let me tell you something. God will show you a forest, but He will give you a seed. God will show you something big, but guess what? He will not tell you the process. Because if He tells you, some of you will not embark on the journey. He will show you the end because He calls the end from the beginning. But the pathway there, He may not tell you. So you think that by virtue of just obeying His voice, you will have it all hunky-dory, twiddly-goodly, everything's going to be smooth. No, you will experience rough patches. Because remember what I said, God is more interested in your evolution than in you arriving at the destination. He wants you to become a kind of person. That is His interest. And by you going through the process, you are going to become that quality of person. So that's what was happening to me. Little did I know that God was taking me through a process. So I was confused. I didn't know whether to, go back to my 9-to-5 to get another job, or I didn't know whether to start applying to places I was putting my CV out there. In fact, I remember that somebody in the organization I used to work in had heard, and he had spoken to a lady who had always wanted to recruit me. So this lady calls me. She was the group head of a particular department. She called me and she said to me, Bankole, there are several people vying for this position. You are the only person I am calling. I want you to come back to the organization. On the next level, I want you to come and become the unit head of the CSR team, and obviously I'm going to earn more. I love the theme of this particular event. It's called TheFocusedLife. I knew that was a distraction. I knew that was not me being focused on what precisely God had called me to do. So I left it. I told her the offer. And I was still confused, trying to get jobs, looking for offers here and there, not quite sure what God had intended for me. At a point in time, I decided that I was going to invest in different kinds of businesses and ensure that I made some money. I remember that I bought a truck. It was like a 30-ton truck because I wanted to, just get something that would generate income for me. And I gave this truck to somebody who I thought I trusted, right? And for 6 months, I made nothing. I did not make a dime. In fact, they were supposed to call me to let me know every time the truck went out. But they would not call me. Every time it went out and it broke down, they would call me. So money was leaving me and I wasn't making anything. And I know how much I invested in that thing. After 6 months, I didn't make a dime. And I heard God tell me, Bankole, give out this truck. I said, Baba God, how? And I said, I don't have money. I tell you to give it out. But obviously I obeyed. At a point in time, I said to myself, hey, I need to invest in agriculture. Myself and my friend, we bought a farm or a land somewhere in Ibadan, and we started investing in a pig, we started a pig farm. And we hoped to buy, because we paid for it, 105 piglets. At no point did I see 40. They told me that after 6 months, those pigs will become big, fat, and flourishing. 6 months later, they were looking skinny, scrawny. I'll go there and I'll be confused whether the guy was exchanging the fat ones with the scrawny ones. I don't know. I just never grew. After 1 year, after an investment of 6 million naira, all the money I made in a year, all we made from that project was 600,000 naira. I remember I started, doing my consulting practice with a friend of mine at the time, and we were trying to get jobs in different organizations. We'll go there, deliver presentations. They would love the presentations. They will say, we like you guys. And when you hear that kind of thing, you already begin to testify the testimony that has not yet manifested. And in my mind, I'm like, Baba God, you have done it. And I will begin to rejoice and everything, and I will wait for their phone call. First week, no call. Second week, no call. Third week, in fact, we'll now be going through the papers and discover that they engaged some other person other than you. I just felt like a failure at that time. I remember going to meet a lady who was the group head of a particular bank, as in the HR of the bank. Now, what had happened was a friend of mine had pushed for us to go through the screening process, to become a consultant, and we had started training that organization. And we did one training, and I felt the need to go meet this group head to tell her thank you that finally we have gotten a job. I went to meet her to say thank you. This lady looked at me from top to bottom, sized me up, and said to me, you mean we engaged you? Wait, hold on. And I did not know that we engaged you. And she looked at me like I was too young to have such projects, because at the time, the people who they engaged, our ex-staff who were executive directors, and left. I was just a banking officer and I got this opportunity. And she looked at me and she said to me, Bankole, let me advise you. If you want to succeed as a consultant, go and find international organizations and partner with them. Harvard, Cranfield, those are the kinds of people who we are working with now. But guess what? you are not going to do business with this organization again. That was the last, no, they say first and last. You understand? It was the first, but it was also the last time while she was there that I did business with that organization. I remember crying and saying to God, why me? Has anybody ever been there before? Where certain kinds of things happen and you wonder to yourself, why you? Somewhere along the way something happened. That particular event, I decided to have a different interpretation of that event. I left there and I said to myself, never in my life will anyone ever look at me and ignore me. Never. It made me commit to myself that I was going to work tirelessly to ensure that my name was a force to reckon with, such that you would not have to see me to define whether or not you will work with me. I had and I chose to have a different interpretation to the situation, and that's what I'm trying to tell you. Crisis does not come to destroy you. So what happened to me? So all that period, I discovered nobody was engaging me. I wasn't doing anything, but I decided that, hidden in this crisis, there must be more. And I said to myself, I will start writing a book. I will write. And that's how I started writing. Because nobody was engaging me, I had time. And I started writing and I wrote my first book, engaged to a job I hate. Before then, nobody knew me as a writer. For those of you who follow me on Instagram, I'm sure you know that I'm a phenomenal writer. Guess where it came from? Crisis. Did you hear what I said? It was a talent I didn't even know I had. But crisis does not come to destroy you. It comes to reveal a side of you that you are unfamiliar with. Is somebody hearing what I'm saying? So, I'm here to let you know that from that situation of hurt and pain, something great is going to come out of it. I'm organizing a conference in Calabar this week, and I remember I was going through the profile of one of the speakers at the conference, Real Maureen Pekin. I mean, I was one amazingly. And when I was going through her profile, I discovered that in 2018 she attempted suicide. 2018. In 2019 she blew. Can you imagine if she really took her life away? What does that tell you? It tells you that when you think you have come to your wit's end, you are actually closest to your greatness. Did you hear what I said? When you think you have come to your wit's end, you are actually what? Closest to your greatness. I'm telling you that there's greatness on the inside of you that you have not experienced. And it is a situation of crisis that's going to reveal the greatness that resides on the inside of you. Let me prove it to you. I'm reminded of a story of a lady, a true story, who in the UK was called the Bionic Woman. Now, what happened to this woman? One day, she went out to a grocery store and bought groceries and was putting the groceries in her car. And as she was putting it in her car, she was with her son. And her son slipped underneath the car. And when he slipped underneath the car, he was wearing dungarees. His dungarees got stuck underneath the car. And the baby began to scream. And the woman was frantic. She was calling for help. And nobody came there quickly enough. On the spur of the moment, the woman puts her hand underneath the car, lifts the car, and then draws her son out. Now at this point, people were running in her direction to help her. And when they saw what she did, they said, "Madam, what did you just do?" She said, "My son was crying out in desperation. I had to help him." They said, "Madam, you don't understand what we're saying. You don't understand. No, you don't understand. If we live here and we tell people we saw a woman carry a car, they will not believe us. Madam, please, we have come with lights. We have come with cameras. Please, can you do it again?" The woman said, "Are you sure I can do it?" He said, "We have confidence in you. We know what we saw you do." They brought the lights, they brought the cameras. Oh yeah, action. The woman puts her hand underneath the car. Who can guess what happened? she could not do it. How come she could not do it the second time? Because the first time there was a crisis. And out of that crisis came out the potential that had always been there. Let me ask you a question. Did the potential jump upon her just when the crisis came? Or the potential was always there? It was always there, but what brought it out was what? Come look at the person beside you and tell them, don't let your crisis go to waste. ISIS. I'm reminded of another story I heard of a lady who, there was a shootout somewhere, robbery attack, and she ran. She ran and she saw a fence and she jumped over the fence to the other side of the fence. And she chilled there, waiting to ensure that she stopped hearing the gunshots. So when she stopped hearing them, she figured that, hey, the robbers must have gone. So she walked to the front of the building to try to access the gate. The gate had a massive padlock on it. It was an abandoned building. So the lady began to scream. And she began to scream. People on the other side heard her. So they ran to the fence and they said, Madam, what is the problem? She said, when the robbers were shooting, she said, I ran, and then I jumped into this compound for safety, She said, now I'm stuck. He said, wait, hold on. How did you enter? She said, I jumped. Oh yeah, jump out. She said, I cannot. Crisis revealed the potential that she possessed. And you guys understand what I'm saying? I am telling you, the problem is that we have wasted moments of crisis, whereas it came to reveal something to us. When you think you're at your wit's end, remember that you are closest to your greatness. The big question now is, when crisis shows up, what do we do? What do we do? Three things you need to pay attention to. Number one is consolidate. Somebody say consolidate. I can't hear you. Somebody say consolidate. To consolidate means to make something stronger. Crisis comes so that you can become stronger. So that you can become a different kind of person. So God expects you to grow in the season of crisis, meaning that there is something to learn in that period when you are experiencing something that you least expect to experience. You know, the problem with most people is that they don't revisit their places of pain because they don't want to even have any experience with it. Whereas that experience came for consolidation. It came for you to become stronger. It came because there is something to learn from that situation. Because if you don't learn that thing, you will repeat that class. And those kinds of experiences will keep coming. There is something fundamental that you're supposed to learn. You are supposed to evolve and grow from that situation. Otherwise, it will go to waste. The problem is when people fall, they just fall down. What you need to do is to fall and get back up. But when you get back up, make sure you pick something up. Did you hear what I said? One of the greatest tragedies in life is not that people fall. It's that they fall and they don't pick anything up. One of the greatest tragedies. So the point is, when those things happen, there is something to learn. So all those experiences I told you about, there were things to learn. And if I did not revisit those experiences to learn from those things, I will not be where I am today. One of the fundamental things for me to have learned from those experiences was I found out that I trusted people without doing my adequate research. I trusted people because should this person my friend in business. Okay? I gave someone who I trusted my truck. The piggery was somebody who I trusted to manage without doing adequate research and just trusting. And money went. If you don't learn that lesson, you will still write that exam. Did you hear what I said? Crisis comes for consolidation. It comes so that you become stronger. right? One of my obsessions now is that I tend to go to the gym pretty frequently. And I learn a lot from everything. So I learn from even going to the gym, right? And when you're carrying weights, for instance, it is at the point of your deepest pain that you are getting stronger. Did you hear what I said? That point where I can't do it. That point, that is what is building your strength. Your capacity to go beyond your normal threshold, right, is what is building your strength. So you are becoming stronger by doing it. But beyond that, you are becoming bigger by doing it. So you are building the muscles not just by the activity of carrying the dumbbells, but by the activity of carrying the dumbbells when it hurts the most. Do you understand what I'm saying? Cause for consolidation. Number one is consolidate. Number two is innovate. Innovate. What does it mean to innovate? It means to make something better by introducing new methods or ideas. In a situation of crisis, it's time to innovate. You can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. You can't. You must adjust. There are some of you in business, you are struggling in business because you are doing the same thing. You have refused to innovate. The world has evolved, the world has changed, and you are not willing to adapt and to change the way the world is changing. You must read the environment and know how to make the necessary adjustment to your business or to your product for you to thrive. And if you work a 9 to 5, you must understand where you work, understand the culture in that environment, make the adjustment with the way you work for you to consistently get promoted. We live in desperate times. You must change your strategy. You must innovate. Let me tell you, God are the times where people just get promoted for doing their work. In this time, you must do your work and you must be visible with your work. You must make known what it is you are doing. Because that's the kind of world that we're in. Everybody's putting their stuff out there. You had better put your stuff out there. Understand the environment you are in and know the innovation that is required. Sometimes the difference between where you are and the billions you desire is an adjustment. It may not necessarily mean a change of product, but a tweaking of that product can make all the difference. But guess what? You want to stay true to yourself and your product, whereas the environment requires an adjustment. I'll give you an example. I have a book that members of my team published on my behalf. I recently book in 2013. It's just interesting that the book is so relevant right now. It's a book that I titled Drowning Fishes. Somebody will say, but fishes don't drown. Yes, they do. Drowning fishes. Yes, they do. In some kinds of environments, fishes drown. In toxic water, fishes drown. The fishes that survive and the ones that thrive are the ones that adapt. So they develop adaptive features for the environments that they find themselves in to thrive. I'll give you a very practical example. Nigeria can be that kind of environment. Certain things that work in other nations, if you don't adjust and adapt here, they will not work. So you must understand that innovation is part of life. Consistently tweaking, looking at what the environment is saying, and making the adjustment to ensure that your product is relevant. Do you understand what I'm saying? I can't hear you. Do you understand? Yeah. Speaking about my gym, or the gym that I go to. About a year ago, just beside my office, a smoothie bar had just opened. Right, so, and my office is in Lekki Phase 1, so just beside it was a smoothie bar. And not long after it opened, I noticed that they had folded up. So I was like, well, these guys are in Lekki. odds that you get it. So I joined this gym somewhere close to Rocky Hotel, right? And one day, I was going to the gym, and then I noticed a kiosk, very small kiosk, under the staircase. Imagine, under the staircase, very small kiosk, with the name of that smoothie bar that was beside my office. So I was curious, from this big space, people came to bench here. So I went there, patronized, I engaged them, and I noticed that once I was there, people, as they were walking down from the gym, would stop over at the bar to get, a smoothie, or to get juices and stuff like that, right? And I noticed whilst I was there, customers were just flooding the place. And I said to myself, this is innovation. They were in Lekki Phase 1, not making sales. Now all they needed to do was to position themselves where they would find the right customers. People who are interested in fitness, people who are interested in living a healthy lifestyle. Rather than take the soda, what do you take? You take a smoothie, right? One time I went there and I noticed this big tub on the kiosk, right? And the tub was a protein shake. Now, people who are bodybuilding, they love protein shakes. They take them a lot. So I was curious. I asked the guy, I said, what is this thing doing here? He said, oh, God, this thing is my money maker. That when these guys see this thing, they say, hey, you can put this thing inside the smoothie. I say, yes, I can put it. And that's how this guy's sales had increased significantly because he chose to innovate. How many nudge the person beside you and tell them innovate? Innovate. Number 3 is create. Final thing I want to share is create. To create is to make something or to bring something into existence. So it's new, didn't exist, but you're bringing it into existence. Now, I spoke about that lady, Real Warrior King, and how in 2018 she almost committed suicide. So I was curious to know, how did she get out? Go and check her Instagram page, and you will understand what it means to create. She started creating content, creating stuff, and putting it out there. Let me tell you, when there is crisis, that is not just the time to cry and to wail. There is the grace for creativity that is available in those moments. There is the grace to bring out something that did not exist or that you had not witnessed yourself do in that period. Sometimes crisis comes to redirect you to some other kind of products that you should be creating. That's why crisis comes. Reminded of the revolution that happened in Dubai. Dubai's revolution started from crisis. The only natural resource that they were proud of, that they believed they had, was oil. And they found out that their oil reserves would have totally depleted by the year 2016. Crisis. Imagine that happening in Nigeria. That oil finished. And they said to themselves, this is not the time to cry and wail. This is the time to create. So they did a research and they found out that they had only 3 things. 3 things that we have in this country. Number 1, they found out that they had sand. Number 2, they found out that they had sea. Number 3, they found out that they had sunlight. 3 things: sand, sun, and sea. Now, you would wonder, what can you create out of sand, sun, and sea? As in, we have it here. We have not thought of what to create with sand, sun, and sea. These guys, they did their research and they found out that the one thing they could do was to make Dubai the number 1 tourist home in the world. The transformation came from crisis. Those guys are so creative with nothing. I went on the desert safari in Dubai. What do? You drive recklessly in sand. That's what you do. Drive recklessly in sand. When we have sand, we have plenty sand in abundance. They've created a product out of sand. When I went in 2013, each of us in the vehicle I was in paid the dirham equivalent of $50. Right? That tour company today has 100 cars on their convoy. Let's do the math together. 50 times 6 of us, that's 300. 300 times 100, that's 30,000. The tour company runs twice a day. That's $60,000. Let's just say they run for 20 days in a month. That is $1.2 million from. I mean, look at that person beside you and ask them, what are you creating? It comes to cause you to create something. Let me tell you something. We live in an era of creativity. You cannot afford to just be a consumer. You must be a creator. Some of you, that's all you do. Consume other people's content. Consume other people's products. Whereas every day they're creating stuff for you to consume. It comes to force you to begin to think, to create. I can go on and on, giving you several examples of how people through crisis created things. I'm reminded of how the Emirates airline came about. How did it come about? Crisis. The airline that used to serve them, the Gulf Air, was not as available to them. So they didn't have enough planes that were serving them. Frustrated. Crisis, they created Emirates. Today, they're the 4th largest airline in the world. Started from crisis. And go on and on, telling you about how crisis can push you to a point where you begin to create. My gift of writing came from that situation of crisis that made me write my first book. You know, I'm reminded of something that happened in secondary school. We used to build boats for inter-house sports, right? And basically, we'll go to the cashew bush and carry lots of wood, right, and palm fronds and things like that, and create a tent. So we call them boots, right, for our house, for inter-house sports. So we used to do that for weeks. We'll go to the bush, carry logs to the school field, and then build. On the day of inter-house sports, the inspectors will go around all the houses, and one of the houses will win the gold medal for their boots, right? And their well-created boots. So on his house sport day, one of the houses, the Bankole House, I think it rained and then their boot collapsed at some point in the building. A portion of it collapsed. Now, we were laughing at them like, you guys are finished. I was in the middle house, like, you guys are out. We most likely will get it built. When the inspectors came and they were going around and inspecting, these guys entered Usman Bankole House, and these guys had created a concept around the portion that fell. They said that this portion that collapsed, this is the portion where Usman Bankole would allow sunlight to enter, and then he'd see the moon and receive direction on when to pray. Those guys won gold. I still remember in my secondary school. From creating something out of, I am telling you, we live in an era where you ought to begin to create. I'm going to charge you and challenge you. I'll prove to you why this is important. We live in an era where the greatest addiction is our mobile phone. How many of us are addicted? Oh, you don't know? Let me prove it to you. How many of you woke up this morning and the first thing you looked at was your mobile phone? Lift your hand. Lift your hand. How many of you, when you're driving, you receive a text, you don't wait to get to your destination, but you have to look at it before, lift your hand. How many of you walk from room to room in your house with your phone in your hands? How many of you use the toilets with your phone? The greatest addiction. My question to you is, are you consuming content here or are you creating content for others to consume? Did you hear what I said? Are you consuming every day, always looking at what other people are doing? Or are people looking at what you're doing? It is time to become creative. It is time to begin to create ideas, convert them into products. It is time to begin to pour your ideas into things that other people can exchange value for. That is the time that we're in. Some people may say, oh, these are rough times in Nigeria and things like that. It is not time to agonize and complain. It is time to consolidate. It is time to innovate. And it is time to create. To create your own products. You consume that of others. Who has consumed yours? Let me ask the person beside you, who is consuming yours? Final thing I'm going to say. Says that the greatest is the one who serves. I always wondered what that thing meant. Now I understand it. The greatest is the one who serves his creation to the largest group of people. Did you hear what I said? That's what it is. The greatest is the one who serves whatever it is he or she has created with the largest group of people. That's who the greatest group are. The greatest is the one who serves whatever gift, time, talent that he has with the largest group of people. Why is Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo the greatest in the world? They are serving their gift to the world. We watch them in Africa, we watch them in Europe, we watch them in America, we watch them all around the globe serving their gift. Why is Beyonce the greatest musician that is presently of our time? Because she's consistently serving her gift to the world. Beyonce was on Coachella, right? And whilst others were negotiating a fee for performance, Beyonce was negotiating a fee for a creation. She created a product out of all their backstage recordings and things like that, sold it to Netflix for $60 million. She understands the principle of creating stuff that people will consistently watch across the globe. You are watching her, who is watching you. Thank you.